Okay, everything working? Camera's rolling? Can you hear me clearly? Great. Let's get going then. Here at After 6, we leave our desks to a more casual spot to better understand some of the country's greats, including their life after office hours. Join us as we find out what drives these trailblazers as they make changes to our country. To get the series started, I'll be having my After 6 drink with someone who was kept busy over the quarantine getting fit and transforming our country's transport sector while he's at it. Brian Koo. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Jaime.
How's it going?
Hi, good. Nice to see you.
So good to have you here, huh? We wanted this chance to touch base with people who've had special lives, extraordinary lives, entrepreneurs, artists, academicians. You're our first one, and you've led such an interesting life, Brad. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey on the education part before we move to your career and all the things that you've done?
So I was born and bred here in the Philippines.
Okay.
I did my high school in Xavier. When I went to college, I started off in Ateneo, did 2 years of management engineering. But I've always wanted to go abroad. The US was too expensive. Hong Kong the language was a bit difficult. So Singapore became a natural choice. It was one of the top universities in Asia. So when an opportunity came up for me to apply to National University of Singapore, I took it.
What was that experience like, living in a different society?
Oh, a lot. Even the idea of Grab and ride-hailing came out of Singapore. When I was in Ateneo, we were still all on acetate paper with projectors, right? Now in Singapore, everything was projectors. So when I walked onto campus, oh my gosh, this is like totally different. The whole school was connected with Wi-Fi.
So you saw the way people were using technology, the way they were living their lives, and that gave you a whole new concept of what the consumer experience could be? Was it like that?
Ride-hailing, for instance.
Right.
In Singapore, even before the smartphone came out, popularized ride-hailing, you would be able to call for a cab. And then it shifted very quickly to you'd be able to text for a cab.
Correct.
And you'd be able to text for a cab because you had proper addresses in Singapore.
Yes. So the database, the whole infrastructure of data, of information, had a basic structure there that then you could utilize with technology.
That's something that I realized, that you can't copy-paste technology. You need to understand sort of the local setting, the local infrastructure that exists, and then adjust whatever technology or solution you have.
So transportation has been your thing. You can be an entrepreneur in many different fields, but you chose transportation.
I think it's the other way around. Transportation chose me. When I was in Singapore, I took public transportation a lot, so which included buses, taxis. Going into transport wasn't really about getting around. It was about seeing an opportunity that existed in Singapore that did not exist here, which was that booking layer.
So travel and seeing the world is an important component of learning, right?
Definitely. And it's not just about going to more developed countries and finding solutions. You also go to similarly developed, in that similar stage of development, finding solutions there that you can bring here to the Philippines. Then I started exploring, what if we made booking a taxi as easy as it is in Singapore, here in the Philippines. So I rang up a friend. I said, hey, do you know anyone in Bluebird? Because I want to understand how Bluebird, which is the largest taxi company in, I guess, in Southeast Asia, is doing it. And that guy turned out to be Nadeem, the co-founder of Gojek. And he says, yeah, I know Bluebird, but I have a better idea. Why don't we do it for motorcycles? I said, motorcycles? Why motorcycles? Because motorcycles in Indonesia called ojeks.
Oh, that's how the name came about.
That's how the name, it was the most clever name. So we studied how the ojek market, that motorcycle ride-hailing market, functioned in Jakarta. And what we realized is that it functioned very much like tricycles here in the Philippines. They had hubs called pangkalans, which they'd hang out in. Those were the congregation points of the supply. So we realized that supply would hang out there. So we hired a bunch of people. Like I would I didn't speak a word of Bahasa,
Yeah.
but I would still go out and try to talk in broken Bahasa to these drivers. And we tagged all these pangkalans. So imagine this as the TODA system, the tricycle system here. And
when you say tag, what does that mean exactly?
Geotag.
Oh, geotag.
Yeah.
So quite crude technology
Very,
at that
very
time.
crude.
You needed like a central office somewhere. Where,
and then we had a call center in the central office.
Yeah, that's logical.
Correct. Then people would call and say, I need a ride from here to here, and we'd give them a fixed price. So we were solving the price discrepancy negotiation issue.
Right.
And that's how it started.
You know that I like motorcycles as well. I like transportation, but both of us must use the road to listen to music, listen to podcasts. What are your favorite podcasts? Do you have a number there?
I'm very big into podcasts right now. It gives me that worldview while we can't travel. So the first one is Acquired. It's a podcast that talks about company's history. So it goes really deep into the history of a company and what has made that company succeed. Number 2 is something called ROBINHOOD Snacks. It talks about 3 companies, always just 3 companies. So also interesting, gives you a perspective of what's going on out there that you don't usually find in the news. The third one is PANDAILY. Talks about startups in China. So it gives you a better perspective of what's going on in China, because startups in China don't usually run like startups in the West. The fourth one is Clubhouse.
Okay.
So I've been jumping on Clubhouse a lot lately.
I got invited, but I got embarrassed when I went in. I pulled out again.
Well, if you go in, everyone's gonna invite you to stage to listen to what you have to say. So
if you go, I'll go.
and the last one is a bit embarrassing.
What is this?
After a long day of work, you just want to unwind and just blank off mentally, and I think K-drama allows you to do that.
Big in this country. Everybody loves K-dramas. I haven't followed it myself, but which one do you like? Which one do you follow?
So right now we're watching The Startup. Okay. We're a bit late to the game, but we're watching The Startup. It reminds me a lot of what I've gone through on the startup side, not on the love, love triangle side.
Recommended?
Recommended. Highly recommended.
Okay, super. I'll have to give it a try myself.
Once you do, you'll get hooked.
We've been touching on a number of different companies that you've been involved in, but we really haven't heard a lot about Grab, and that's been such a massive success. There's been a SPAC that's come in, created a $40 billion valuation, and yet you were there at the very beginning.
Back then, similar to Gojek, I never thought it would be anything, We started out as a taxi hailing company. And the idea was around providing safer transport to women, more convenient rides, because you could book
So safety and personal security was one of the drivers at the beginning. It was addressing a need.
Correct. It was very core to it. That's why you could rate the driver.
Okay.
You could see the driver's face. So those were all the safety elements that we put in place.
How are you going to transform or disrupt this industry?
Well, to the drivers, it was extra income. Because not all the taxi fleets, especially the smaller ones, had a radio center. So our idea was just to organize that.
Okay.
Give drivers a chance to earn more. And give operators a chance to earn a bit more.
So for that, you have to know where they are. Because then how do you make it more efficient?
So that's the second part of the story.
Okay.
Now we went to the operators and said, okay, this proposition, drivers can earn more. Right. They'll be super happy. They'll be able to pay the boundary, which is the taxi rent on time. The operator said, okay, you pay for the phone. Okay. I said, we don't have money to pay for the phone. And the drivers are in your garage. You pay for the phone. It went on like that. So for 10 operators, no one wanted to give in to pay for the phone. Until I had to convince Anthony, dude, we need to break this impasse, right? And
so
pay for the phone.
You paid it for it yourselves, or?
Luckily, we found one operator that went 50-50 with us.
Okay.
So that's how it started, 24/7 taxi.
What are you working on now, Brian?
When the government said they wanted to modernize jeeps, I thought that it was a really, really good project. And then when I dug in, I realized it had the same problems of fragmentation.
Oh, okay. Not under any kind of structured format. They're all independent.
No formal structure. They're part of associations and federations. No corporation over it that helps them scale, helps them refleet.
So how do you tackle this then? So that's one area, is the whole industry structure. You saw an opportunity there. How about the product itself?
The product that we're using now are Isuzu Jeeps, which are great, by the way. And we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're using whatever the government said the standards are. We think they're good enough. Later on, we want to explore electric vehicles.
You clean up the way the Jeep is designed, the way shape, look, feel. Is it going to be different? It's an iconic vehicle here in the Philippines, no?
Yeah.
You look to changing that in some way with your design?
Most of the designs that we're getting are the minibus. They're just a bit more efficient in terms of fuel, in terms of headway and turning radius and all of that. Because modernizing the Jeep is not just about modernizing the unit. It's also modernizing the system.
Exactly. Brian, we've talked a lot about payment systems and how they become integral to many of the investments you've made. You are a client of the Bank of the Philippine Islands. Obviously, the bank provides a lot of different services of one kind or another. Any chance of using a BPI QR code?
I am talking to
very good.
BPI.
Yeah. Well, because BPI now has also embraced the whole digital lifestyle. It's coming up with its QR codes. It is being used in certain transportation sectors. Hopefully it can become one of the payment systems as well.
I'm a free agent right now, so
we'll prove to you that it works.
I'm an account holder.
Okay.
So I've used the QR payments myself and my wife to pay for like the doctor or certain daily expenses. Working from home, instead of signing checks, everything's just done on that.
Yeah, the same thing has happened in our own home, and we've been very happy with the BPI app because actually it's moved up among the different financial institutions in the country. We've talked a lot about your professional life. It's absolutely fascinating, and at such a young age, you've done so much already. But the personal side as well is as important, I guess, to our lives in many ways. What's your pandemic year been like?
So before the pandemic, I was always out in meetings, working. I'd be able to eat at home during the weekdays once every week, and that got flipped on its head when the pandemic happened. I'd hate to say fortunate, but I was blessed, I guess, for me to be able to spend time with my family.
Weekends still weekends for you, Brian, or is every day of the week you just take your breaks when you can?
I'm lucky to have a very understanding wife.
Yeah.
Who, on weekends, there's no choice. If work calls, then work calls. The world won't stop for you. So I've been very fortunate that she's understanding. I hope she watches this. And the kids, I think, are happier that they see their dad more.
I'd love a chance to see you both at work and at home. It's all become one for all of us. Can you give us a chance to see that?
Yeah, of course. I'd love to.
Hello everyone, welcome to our home. First thing I'd like to show you is this little gym that we set up, and then I would like to introduce you to our new family member, Dax, named after Grab drivers. Because of the pandemic, the offices were closed, so we ended up keeping her here at home. This is our living room and our dining area, and that painting behind me in the middle was commissioned by my wife to represent our three beautiful daughters. The first one you've met, and here are the other two. Say hello. Our offices, my wife and I, we work all the way up at the 4th floor to make sure that it's the least noisiest place, which ends up being the most noisy because the kids love staying up here with us.
Daddy!
This is my wife in her workspace. Of course, my makeshift office is the storeroom where we set up a small table for me to work. Yeah, so that's the tour of our house. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thank you for viewing.
Well, Brian, I'm very excited to see what you're going to do. You've already done so much in life. There's so much more to do. If BPI can be of any help along the line in helping you continue to grow and add value to our economies, to our societies, feel free to count on BPI to come through for you.
Thank you so much, Jaime. Without guys like you trailblazing the way for people like us to follow, we wouldn't be here right now. So thank you very much for that. And thanks for also inviting me. I really had a good time.
Yeah, me too, Brian. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Wishing you much continued success.
Thank you.